They're going through their scorched earth program where they basically open season on what's left of the so-called Palestinians or Palestinian state. The problem is a lot of so-called Palestinians have legally been treated as second-class citizens in their home country due to the expansionist Zionist uh, proliferation and the way that regular people are kept, you know, outside of that is that they are inundated with the different products and stuff like that that these multinational corporations that are owned by these same companies, you know what I'm saying, to be able to manipulate the mass through the consumerism. Because all of these corporations are owned by people who happen to be of that persuasion, of the same demographic that happens to be running the so-called country of what they refer to as Israel, which again was founded in 1948. Now, the kingdom of the northern and southern kingdom of Israel and Judah, see what I'm saying? That's something different. That's now going back a long time and has nothing to do with the quote unquote people that's there today. The people that's there today are from Europe. What makes them so-called Jewish is the homogeny of them ascribing to what people refer to as the Hebrew faith. See what I'm saying? Yeah, there are those who are of the original faith who are not necessarily practicing what they perceive as Hebrewism, which is today called Judaism. See what I'm saying? But they haven't done anything to actively pursue that. You know what I'm saying? So because they're not actively so-called Jews today, technically, then the state of Israel, right, which is supposed to be for all Jews, which are all people who are supposedly of the so-called Jewish faith, right? But it's only for a specific sect of those types of people, you dig? Which are the ones that come from Central Europe, who essentially through this thing called the Nakba. Y'all know what the Nakba is? Have you heard of this? Okay. So I remember, I'm so old, I remember when I could go to the corner store and all the corner stores was like owned by Arabs, like pale Arabs, people from like Beirut, Lebanon, that type of shit. And these crazy niggas was so it was so open that they would post pictures, like they would have pictures of them in the desert, in these places. This is in Brooklyn, in the desert and shit. Like when you go get the candy and shit. Well, in that section, they would have like a partition made of plastic or whatever, and bulletproof glass or whatever, and then they would post their pictures and shit. And then in there you would see them with AK-47s with the shemag's on next to the tanks, rocket launchers and shit. Because these niggas would go fight and then come back to America, mount the store and shit like that. Like this what used to. I remember seeing this. And then I remember at a certain time, all of the stores got flipped. Where it wasn't Arabs running them anymore. It's like they sold them all to like Hispanics or like Puerto Ricans. You know what I'm saying? And then the Arabs, it's like I don't know, they went into the taxi industry or other shit. But in that, this was the era of Reagan Contra. So all of the Iran Contra shit is going on. All of the CIA Operation Mongoose, Agent Orange, all of this now covering up the debacle of the so-called Vietnam War, right? Which was really a cash grab. And all of this is popping off, you dig? So they can't they can't really subscribe to the fact that this was a certain time in our history. So these guys, those guys specifically, who were that, all of those guys were trained by U.S. guys. You understand? Oliver North and these people that we see now in movies like American Made and Cocaine Cowboys and all of this type of stuff, right? So all of this falls on the lap of the British in the context that before the establishment of the OSS, Britain ran the global intelligence situation, which means that they were the face or the arm of the secret governments, right? That run everything through the blackmail, human trafficking, all that stuff, right? So those guys had a monopoly on that. So after the OSS was established, they then needed to people it with the right protocols for them to be able to implement what they learned from the Nazis that they brought over here and integrate it into government positions, and then integrated the rest of them, their families, into that. But remember, these are all hardcore program Nazis, right? That half went to Canada, another portion went to South America, the next portion was put into like Middle America. And then these guys basically worked independently and in tandem to be able to eventually use the Nazi mechanisms to be able to control the newly minted uh, de facto bankrupt United States government that reestablished itself by 1933. See what I'm saying? So it wasn't until 1945 that they were able to now subjugate everything, because they got Oppenheimer, whose family at the same time was one of the biggest owners of insurance policies and shit in the world. So a lot of people that was dying and stuff, their policies and stuff was insured by Oppenheimer and them. You dig? So you think it would be advantageous for him to then create bombs to kill more people, to then create more situations to have more policies created. You see, it's a slippery slope. So after this war, these Nazis, they want to be able to have their own thing. But then the ones that was the backbones of that, they got their own fake state. They started going in what they called the kibbutz. The kibbutzes started in Palestine, where the Palestinians that was already running it. Now remember, Palestine already exists. It already has money that they can knit back to a certain time. And now remember, the name Palestine, that's even something that was hoisted on them from the so-called Romans, which was then inherited by the Moors, who took over those provinces and let them keep that. So Palestine was like the old name of those people in that region, who for the most part were or were not Christian. Now, if we want to bring it back further, okay, we can bring it to the Moorish expansion, which culminated in the separation between us and the so-called Pale Arabs, who themselves were still idol worshippers. Okay, so after the establishment of the religion of Islam, right, they converted what was already there into something else that they could use to unify these goat herders and these people under a new reorganized system that technically was still influenced by Roman homogeny, right? So it got to the point where these people, these Moors, and got to it with these so-called paler Arabs, who then started to wage war against them, started kidnapping them, castrating them, selling them or whatever. So what they did was they moved further west and up into Europa, right? And actually was dealing with the civilization, where the pale, dry, arid Arabs who had themselves been subjugated not only by Rome but by those Moors, who now had their own uh, let's say, political base, started then to integrate and expand and then try to take more territory from the people who, let's say, were Moors, melanated, but were not a part of the, let's say, greater Moorish Empire. And started to, enslave them, take their lands, and boom, boom, boom. So all of that happened in successive waves that led them to basically be left with nothing by the turn of the century. So by the time people like T.E. Lawrence of the Brit finds these people, right, he sees the potential to use them to help break the Turks, right, who by this time had done the same thing the Pale Arabs had done, you see, and now being that they were all basically Muslim captives who had now adopted the religion of Islam, put their little spin on it, and then separated from the true mystic Turks, the true Osman Ali descendants, right? Those Moors, whatever. And then they banished the Fez by putting the Ataturk in it. But if you look at it from the other perspective, these people had been brutalized and annexed and enslaved so much that the word Slav was synonymous solely with them. You understand? Solely with them. To the point that this day, when you say slave, you're not talking about an enslaved person. Like an enslaved person or being is somebody who is not Slavic. But a Slavic person or person of Slavic ancestry of birth is by definition, by very definition, a slave. Just like somebody from Europa, right, is or can be considered a European, depending on their political position. So these Brits by the 1900s see the collapse of who they call the old man of the West, which is the waning old Moorish Turkish Empire, right? Right? These dudes, and then they decide to use the Bedouins and the rest of these people as a means of breaking the rest of them in what would become the Middle East. So they do that and then give these people patches of desert, right? And then start calling them Arabs. Up until 1914, the word Arab did not exist. There's Arab, right? Arap, right? Which is foreigner, which has come from apar, which is an old Phoenician word, like which means foreigner, right? And then there was the Eber, right? Eber, right? Which is like the real Hebrew royalty lineage stuff. But up until this point, these things didn't exist. So now that they exist, T.E. Lawrence, who Lawrence of Arabia in the movie, and they start perpetuating this amongst these people and start organizing them along the lines of what it would mean to create a basically like a vassal state under Britain. So once they were able to do that, they also seen the position now to what to do with the rest of these so-called Jews who are now referring to themselves as Zionists, right? Who now are decreeing that they need their own homeland so that way they could do what they needed to do for themselves and their people. You understand? But to do that, you got to remake the history of what the people and these types of people are doing. So in that, you got to start with who and how the history is set up and started so you can start to do that. But you got to start from the beginning. So they have already declassified or renationalized or redesignated Moors, Negroes, and African American Indians, all that shit. We know all of that. But all of that was contingent upon them creating a mythological history that would ally the European Jew, who now has the position, the status of being a victim, right, of a so-called Holocaust, which then puts them in position now to acquire their own state. However, real so-called Jews understand, and people of that faith who call themselves a faith know that their God said that they're not supposed to have their own state. That's in their Torah. That's in their law. Because whenever they had their own state, they would always wind up abandoning their own laws. This is what they say or said about themselves and why they're not supposed to do that. You understand? So you see how both are paradoxical, right, to one another. But that don't stop the British. What the British decided to do is, well, what we're going to do is create the state for them to do that. But to do that, we need land. So first they was thinking about putting them up in China. Believe it or not, they was putting Mao Zedong in them. And they, because Mao Zedong was wiping out all of the indigenous Manchus, right? And them up in there through the communist regime. So they was basically going to buy some land from him. Because remember, Mao Zedong, he is a Jesuit. He's a Jesuit of the fourth vow. He was trained by Jesuits. Remember what I said about the fourth vow. We'll touch on that again later. Anyway, once Mao Zedong, it didn't work out. The numbers, something didn't happen with the money, and it didn't work out right. So because the other Nazis are now firmly ensconced, right, in all of these different Western governments, also Arab governments, okay, they're working with them too. You understand? So they then give birth to the first generation of Nazi children or these people's descendants that's born outside of this, outside of the Reich, right? So we're talking, let's say, 1945 to 1965. Now, think about all of the political bullshit and crazy shit that happened from then to now. Think about it. So you see what I'm saying? You see who's causing it. Remember, Che Guevara wasn't even from Cuba. He's an Argentine. And who went to Argentina after the war? Which would explain a lot of his BS. But because they want you to look at the communism as this altruistic movement of the people, they glorify this idiot. They get Jay-Z to put his face on his shirt at a MTM Unplugged, and now everybody want to be about Che Guevara, right? To the point where they got to make movies now to soft shoe him into the general populace again, to revamp the image for the new generation. So who they get? They get Benicio del Toro to play him. They get Javier Bardem to play him. You see what I'm saying? But all of these niggas may be clones of the nigga in the first place. We don't know. See what I'm saying? Like, we don't know. Because remember, the Nazis was the ones dealing with the cloning, right? Y'all seen the movie Boys of Brazil, right? Y'all saw that? Y'all saw that movie? The Boys of Brazil? So what I'm saying is not far-fetched if they showing it to you. So going back to the story, once they set all of that up, they say, boom, okay, now we ready. So they create the pogroms, they create the means, and they get a Rothschild named Lord Balfour to sign on to the Balfour Agreement. Once the Balfour Agreement is started, now the peaceful kibbutz now turn into skirmishes and pogroms and the same shit that they showing that these people are doing today. This is what they was doing in the Night of Veils, as they call it, the Night of 1,000 Veils. They always got these dumb names for this shit, romance and they tyranny. So they do this periodically over such a period that they wind up annexing most of the land that they wasn't supposed to necessarily annex. And because they had now Britain backing them, naturally the United States has to back them because of the agreement the United States has with Britain. You see what I'm saying? And now they can use this as a vassal state, both the United States, Britain, France, Germany. They can use it as a vassal state to fulfill their foreign policy agendas in that part of the world, which eventually leads to what eventually came about in the Bush era as the plan for a new American century. And when you read that garbage, it basically is the protocols of the learned elders of Zion just flipped. with America being the one having to do what it got to do to get rid of all of the Axis countries that are going to stop it from establishing its perpetual democratic dominance through a natural pipeline that they wanted to build, right? And the countries that needed to go were in the first phase, right, was Beirut, Lebanon, all of that they was popping off in the 80s, right? And then eventually that culminates by the end of the 90s in Afghanistan, right? And then in the beginning of 2000s, they now expanded from Afghanistan because nobody ever conquers Afghanistan. So that's another story. So they shut that down and then create a subdivision, a subgroup, right, that allows them to perpetuate that further. And so the next phase was then to get rid of the next countries that we started with Iraq, right? Then Syria, then Libya, then uh, Egypt, then Iran, right? So that's already set. So that's the script that they're following now, right? But nobody's with that script anymore. You see, because the globalists came in and then annexed their little BS on it, right? And so the globalists started working directly with the politician lobbyists, and then they all started working with the weapons manufacturers, and then they hooked up with the pharmaceutical companies, and then they all invested into the financing system that again was backed by the British, and then they pumped all of that money into creating Israel, which would be a pogrom state that they could expand and do what they wanted to do with. So this is the last phase of it. You see what I'm saying? Wipe these people out altogether, and then from there, then burn down the Temple Mount, then build a new temple on top of the Muslim mosque that's there, and then sign a peace agreement, and then the Antichrist. Or excuse me, then the real Christ, and then the Antichrist, or vice versa. The Vatican's role in this is, like I said, they're the ones that trained all of these idiots. They're the ones that raped all of these people and gave them a good Jesuit education. You understand what I'm saying? They are the ones who have been working with the long-term enemy, who has always been the hidden hand, has always been those behind the veil, per se. They all work in tandem. It all of that. So to put it mildly, to finish that part of it, they all fell into this quagmire, like I said, with the U.S. and all of that because of the Nazi connection. The Nazis are in all of this. Remember the Azimov battalion that they are funding. That is the Ukrainian military. That is who the money is going to. It's going to Nazis who left and set themselves up in the communist era as communists. And then after the bloc fell, they turned tails. Instead of going with the new Russian system out of the old Soviet system, they went into the democratic human trafficking system, United States back system. You understand? So that's who they're funding. They're fighting Nazis. And these people are dealing with, genetically modified organism type soldiers and this type of all of that in Ukraine. That's what everything is happening in Ukraine. You understand? Yeah. See what I'm saying? They bringing the 4 red heifers in. They trying to fulfill the prophecy to the letter. Because remember, they wrote the prophecy. You understand? They wrote the prophecy. Anybody seen the movie Dune? Or ever read the books on Dune? Well, when you read the books, what you find out, what you don't really pick up on in the movie, well, you might in the newer one, but in the older one, you got to really know it. But what you don't pick up on is that the legacy, the prophecy of the Kwisatz Haderach, right? The super being, the man who could be in all places at once, who could fold space. That prophecy was some made up shit that the Bene Gesserit sisterhood made up. A sister, she got stranded in the desert, and when the Fremen came, they was going to kill her. So she just spouted out the prophecy to these dudes to keep her alive, and it became their reverend mother. This is exactly how Jesuits, Frank Herbert modeled that on the Jesuit missionary. That's exactly the type of thing that they would do. They would set up the prophecy. Once the prophecy was set up, they then would give the word back to the main diocese. Okay, this is what we have to do, and then eventually try to work situations to get it to manifest in the future. You understand? By using the people's belief in it. Okay, so that's exactly what they've done with this biblical prophecy, the revelation sequence, and all of that, the codes. That's a frequency. That's a frequency, which is a reality that you tap into when you believe that that's what it's going to be, and thus you tie yourself to that reality. See what I'm saying? To then make it become so. However, if it's just another potential reality to you, and that the reality of actually being that not happening is more relevant to you than it is. You see what I'm saying? Even if it does happen, you will then go to the reality where it didn't. You see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I mean? It's, yeah, predictive programming. So that's why they use these types of things. This chick was down with the head warden of the oldest so-called Freemasonic police division that existed in the so-called United States. This is a fact. These are the guys that was doing political hits and all types of stuff, all of those murders that was happening in LA between the gangs and the Bloods and the Crips and the Hollywood people and the sacrifices. Dennis Quaid referred to them as the Star Whackers. These are this is where a lot of this is coming from. These are the people. This is a division of that. This is the black version. These are the dudes that preside over the music industry and all of that. These types of niggas. Well, these niggas was involved in political hits. I got pictures of this dude at the top with Bill Clinton and these people. You see, this dude at the top, got pictures of him. Yeah, yeah. He was down with that. That dude that they based that on was the dude who was down with the Tupac thing. Who wanted to give pop behind the Tupac situation. Reggie, whatever his name is. All of these guys was down with this, or are down with this. Division of that. She was the head matron because she came up under one of the godfathers, who was Willie Brown. He was one of the old Boule godfathers who was responsible for picking up the crop, who was going to be, who's they going to be. She came up under him. She was his known side. She would bring her to political parties and everything, and everybody know he got a wife. Which is why she's where she's at. It's not because of no merit or intelligence. And so these guys were all arrested and convicted for murder and all types of shit. You know what I'm saying? They even had badges. They were under the Easter Star Division. See? Down with the skull and bones, which is the Sigma Phi Rho. Right? Which is the Jesuits. Where this is so, again, so I'm showing you how and where the Jesuits and the Vatican and these people come in, because these are the ones who we fought against after the surrender. Remember, we fell to each other, but we fell to Moorish Catholics. These were more. These were black people first who use these devils and all of that to do that, to get rid of all of us. So when you become a real hardcore Jesuit, you got to take the fourth vow. This is the fourth vow. I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to read the horrible parts. I do furthermore promise or declare that I will, an opportunity presents, make a wage relentless war secretly or openly against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to extirpate them from the face of the earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, burn, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive those infamous heretics right up rip up the stomachs and the wombs of the women and crush their infant heads against the walls in order to annihilate their inexorable race. This is what every Knights Malta oath take, right? That's in the fourth vow. I'm not talking about the underlings and the niggas that's not in Opus Dei and the real shit. I'm talking about the real hardcore ones. They all got to take the fourth vow. When you reach a certain level in their position, you got to be down with it. The CIA ran by Catholics, administered by Jews. They used to call it Catholics in action. In secret. But they act like they not. Because it says here, I'll act like I'm something else. I do now renounce and disown any allegiance due to any heretical king, prince, state, Protestant, or liberal. See? Look. Church of Scotland, look, I will cut off my hands and feet and my throat from ear to ear, rip my belly open. This is the same vow that the Masons got to take when you get down with it, right? Don't they put the rope around your neck? Don't they lift up your pants? Don't they put the sword at your breast? Some lodges, they'll shoot at you. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what they do to you. And what they tell you, if you reveal any of the secrets, your throat will be cut, your tongue will be put through, and it'll be ripped from ear to ear, all that. This is where it come from. This is where it come from. And they all take this oath. Whether they Jews, whether they're Muslims, whether they're Christians, whether they're Freemasons, whether they're, it doesn't matter. If they're on their road to get power like that, 10 chances to 1, somebody around them is down with the Society of Jesus. That's just how it is. So when these rappers be talking to you about Jesus, and Jesus, they don't always think they talking about the same Jesus you talking about. They might be talking about the society. I've heard these rappers utter these same lyrics. I'll kidnap your baby. I'll force myself on your woman. I'll do, take all your money. I'll rob your house. Where do you think all of this is coming from? It's coming from these idiots. All of that, all Jesuit. When you see them with the cross on, what they all Christians. That's what we saying. Moris a Christian. And he talking about God body this and y'all of this and well, he a Christian too. That's why he wearing the cross. After I done seen him with the 5%ers and all of that. Like, same thing with Nas and them. Remember they was wearing Jesus pieces, but then at the same time they talking about the black man is God and all of this. Remember that? Look, I'll bring it to the Church of England, Scotland, and of the Calvinists, the Huguenots. This is all Moors they talking about doing this to. I will subscribe my name written in blood in testimony thereof, and should I prove false or weaken in my determination, may my brethren and fellow soldiers of the militia of the Pope, see, cut off my hands and feet and my throat from ear to ear. Basically, do to me what we have been doing to everybody else if I don't continue to do this. This is a demonic contract that is the basis of all of the contracts that's currently in play in law, business, and stuff like that. See? Don't they in the music industry allegedly make you fill out a contract in blood if you really trying to go up? Ain't that the story? Rumor ain't a rumor that don't die. That's what these people, that's what they on. That's what they all on. They all on it. So these Nazis, like I said, that's right now that basically came to power in during that time. The kibbutz era became the militia era, and then from there they was being funded by Western powers, the United States and them, and then they eventually started full armed attacks against the so-called Palestinians, who themselves had to protect themselves. Which forced them to retaliate. And then once they retaliated, they started to paint them through the media network that's owned by these people, you see, as the thing. And then to justify their existence as a government, they started to implement things to bring so-called other Jews to Israel to say, hey, look, we taking care of the poor Ethiopian Jews, even though they're the ones that helped foster the Ethiopian Jewish genocide, along with the United States, right? After the Ethiopian famine, after they got rid of Haile Selassie, right? Uh, and they basically, brought them there. Then they started sterilizing them, turning them into a slave class and all of that. Then you had the so-called Hebrew blacks that was over here who wanted to go over there and live as that, and then went over there and seen what it really was like, and basically go through the same type of racism that they go through over here. It's actually more intense over here because you farther away from home. So it's like you got to deal with it. Now they now are gotta get into bomb shelters and shit like that because they bought into the dream that the true Israel is over there. When the same Christ, when the same Jehoshua said that the temple of God is within, but we still looking without. So you gotta let them do that. But when you ask why, then when the Jesuits come, everybody that's a Freemason has basically made this oath. Like I said, well, part of the reason why the Jesuits and these Templar people came into existence was due to the intense slavery that the Moors, let's keep it real, that the Moors was imposing on the world at that point. At this point, the empire had fallen to, we weren't, well, a lot of the Moors, especially in Barbary, weren't in the best of their noblest natures. You know what I'm saying? They're warring with each other. Like as much as people want to depict that the like they say, oh well, before the white man came, we had kingdoms and stuff over here, and yeah, and that's true. You know what I'm saying? That's true. However, what we have to understand is these people were slaughtering each other. Like the wars between the Choctaw and the Sissiska, who they call the Chickasaw, you know, excuse me, the Blackfoot and all of that was intense. They were slaughtering each other. This is when you talk about black on black crime. I'm talking about like a whole city of Moors, so-called American Indians, go into a whole nother city of so-called Moors, i.e. American Indians, and then just slaughter them. Then take their resources and stuff like that and all that. I'm not talking, and again, I'm not just talking like regular, um, you know, what they call the woo-woo type of, feather type. I'm talking about Moors like us today, just with the mind state of them back then. You did? And them going crazy on each other. Way before the white man came here. You understand? The war between the Powhatan Confederacy and the T'Challa or the Hananoui Confederacy is legendary. Millions died in the conflicts way before the white man came. And then once he came, remember, a lot of these people look like us. So we looking at them as cousins, an extension, you see what I'm saying, of us. So we trying to adopt them in our personal shit with one another. Just the same way that it happens today, right? This is exactly what niggas do today. Right? This is exactly what we do today. We call the police on each other. We don't work out our own problem. It used to be we worked out our own problems. It used to be that the gangs was there to protect us from the police. Used to be. It's not like that no more. These are all Jesuits. You understand? These Jews right here, they all work for the Pope. They all with the Pope. They're under the Rothschild situation. These all Ashkenazim. Same thing with these dudes. These dudes are Jews. Why else would they want Jews to come to Mecca? It's over. Like a lot of them flooded it. Like, think about it, man. Think about it. Let's really be real. Like, that's why we are different. That's why we should celebrate our differentness. You get what I'm saying? Our differences. Because we're not this. We're not these type of Muslims. We're not. We don't look at Allah the way that these people do. And when we talk about Allah, we're not even talking about the same God that these people talk about. These people talking about some whole other shit. We talking about the arm, leg, arm, head. We talking about our physical temple as a manifestation on earth as the most high. So that means the better we treat ourselves and the less we degrade ourselves, the better the experience the Most High has in this third density going into fourth, fifth, right? The better experience that it has through us in that way. Or the worse, depending on what type of being that we are. That's why we different. That's why we don't be praying 5 times a day. I'm not trying to, bag on you if you do that. I'm just saying that that's not necessarily something you need to do to tap into that which resides in you anyway. That was there. We invented that. Our ancestors invented that as a way to bring those who were not civilized into civilization, who had at the time had laws that forbid them from bathing. So we had to incorporate the ancient custom of cleanliness into the very fabric of the doctrine to get these people and bring them into the human family. This is what we did. You understand that you understand that we in the jungle, when we was running Tehuatacan, right? In Tehuatacan, right? Which is in the jungle, it's basically in the jungles, okay? Do you understand that we created farming? We created a farming base where we invented a certain type of dirt that could thrive in the jungle and feed millions of people annually, yearly, for hundreds of years. While these people could barely grow potatoes, is what I'm saying. And these were people that looked like us that had fallen this low in society. You understand? We already had everything laid out for us. We just started to fall. And then once we started falling, that's where a lot of it started to metastasize. So by the time of this era, right, we're all fractured because the stronghold, which was Granada, had fallen. And that was like the capital of the world empire. But it was wherever we were at. So old Granada is over here. Intermediate Granada would be over there. There's more Moorish architecture here in Opelika, Florida than there basically publicly is anywhere else in the country. But what, Shriners did this shit? That's what we're going to say? No, because all of this became spoils of war after we lost the Barbary Wars. Get the book, Diplomatic Relations Between the United States and the Barbary Powers. That'll lay the whole thing out by Irwin. Lays the whole thing out for you. The people who we call American Indians, who are our ancestors, who are us, who are of clans and tribes and all of that, they internationally had international circumstances laid out for them, and things that they could do and did that allowed them great power. But again, with great power comes great responsibility. And the more they started dealing with in the third density, the more they started having to do something with all of these grafted and created people, the more they fell, and that was it. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, when we start talking about God being Allah being God and God being man, go back to the Harufi movement, which was founded by Fazi Ali in 1340. But we know we got to take the one out, so that's 340 to 394 as a Sayyid, right? Muhammad's direct descendant, also master chieftain, which means he was what? A bey. Talking about the real Muhammad, not talking about the creation of the infidels that now has turned into, what it is. The Ashtarabad in Iran, right? The Harufi doctrine, according to which was absolute truth, right? Haqiqah, is founded on the essential substance of the alphabet's letters. See, the most remarkable syncretic feature of the Harufis was their innovative blending of mysticism, Ismaili symbolism, and the emphasis on the number 7. In an online article published, Harufism was based on the Kabbalistic philosophy associated with the numerical significance attributed to the letters of the alphabet and their combinations. A, Allah. B, born. C is to see. D, divine. E, equality. You see what I'm saying? F, father. Fat and hurt, right? G, God, and so forth and so on. We here indigenously, those of us again who are Hebrew or who are descendant of those who refer to themselves as Hebrew but don't practice Hebrew, created our own version of Hebrew in modern time that we refer to what as the 5% thing, which all came out of what? The Moorish Science Temple, right? They're talking about the number 7, the circle 7, the prophet, you know what I'm saying? The prophet was just doing what was already customarily there for us to do and remember. Look, it says God himself is humanity's, wait, what did it say? Harufism regarded the scriptural letters as the basis behind the entire corpus of the Holy Scripture, and that even God himself was manifested in the face of man. See that? In Nasimi's poems, he often finds the explicit statement view of existence as supreme God is himself humanity's son. Nassim says to his reader, "O you in whole face, pristine substance is seen. Your image is merciful and gracious God." Nassimi used the personal pronoun I in the generic sense to mean all men. Since my ending is eternal and my beginning is primordial, primordially and eternally, I am the supreme being. Didn't we just say that? See? We know as a matter of fact that one of his pupils found reciting Nassimi's Persian ghazals in the street there. To see my face, you need the eye to perceive the true God. See? Just like the Bible says, it says, see, be ye know ye are God. Right? But God is just an acronym. Bumar Osdubar, generator, operator, destroyer. But what I'm showing is that this whole thing we dealing with come from more from ancient times. We was always on this shit. We was doing this before this thing that they refer to as Islam actually came into existence as a religion. That's just a fact. And then we incorporated elements of that into that to be able to further expand ourselves beyond where these people got stuck. Think about it. These niggas doing the same thing they've been doing for almost 250 years. Think of all of the things we invented. Not just us, but the Africans as well. Think of all of the things we invented in between them periods, man. We invented a music that's just now starting to corrupt. We're seeing the ending phase of what we call hip hop, which means something else about to be created. So we should be rejoicing in that. We should stop listening to all of the crap and just go back to listening to old shit until some new shit come out of that. Yeah, because we ain't never stopped being where we've been at. Like I said, we don't even practice worship the same. When you say Allah, like you, they think they got a deeper connection to it than you, and they don't even know the historical origin of the fact that most of these niggas is worshiping a goddess, like a idol. You know what I'm saying? Like their version of Allah, they talking about, again, no disrespect, but I'm talking about those who are extreme and not looking at the real truth of where all this stuff come from. That's why they want to break down a lot of the old, why Hamas and these niggas are trying to break down a lot of the ancient structures and shit. They don't want the truth of their fake version of Islam, where it really come from. They want to hide all of that shit. Because their version of Allah is just another version of Ishtar, which is why she's dealing with all of the stuff they dealing with. You understand what I'm saying? And why they so thing with their women, and why the cube and all of that is so important to them. Because they worshiping another version of the same ancient deity that got us all in the problem, this shit in the first place. Exactly. Exactly. So when you see the so-called woman and she's in the full black burqa from head to toe and all that, she got her face covered up, all of that. Like if she want to do that, that's cool. But in the ritual, that's how the priestesses would dress in the temple of Ishtar. That's how they would dress. You understand? They would dress like that. These Moorish, we'll get into the Moorish queen. Good, you brought that up. We'll get into it in a second. But that's how they used to dress, and they would be all naked under that. And then they would have sex with the priests and each other and the idols and all that type of stuff. Then at the end, everybody would have to kiss the main priestess's, you know, special part. The same way they got to go around 7 times, right? And then they got to put their face in the joint. Yes, that's them. So they got their own black cube, their own Ishtar. You understand? That they able to do whatever they need to do with. And if that's their culture, that's what they do, and let them do that. It just got, all of that was pagan shit that got integrated into the religion of Islam at the beginning in order to give it some sort of weight. But eventually that becomes the face and the use of the fundamentalists to then change it into all of this other stuff. Yes, because it's veneration of the black hole. You understand? So that's why they do that. That's why they're so connected to that. That's why they got to do all the rituals. That's why they got to do it 7 times a day. That's why you got to face the east, because you got to give energy to the goddess. See? Whereas like abortion clinics and those things are ruled by Molech. Those are all sacrifices to Molech. In every abortion clinic, there's some image, some god, some idol somewhere, the Molech in there, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not. All of the trans people getting cut up and all that type of stuff, that's all going, or that's all sacrifices to Attis and Baal, who breaks the young men. Because you're dealing with an evil trinity posing as an Abrahamic divinity, right? You got 3 branches of the same religion, right? Right? But we was here before all of them started, right? Right. 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 So there's 3 Abrahamic religions. There's 3 gods in the Catholic Trinity. There's 3 gods in the unholy Trinity. Because 1 and 1 make 3. See? This is 1, right? This is 2. This is 3, right? So 1 and 1 make 3. Like I'm showing you, like I'm showing you. But we've been taught 1 and 1 is 2. But this is 1. This is 1. These 2 came in and created this one. Then this one started going back against this one, right? Then these 2 start banging on this one, right? But they all the same group. What do they call that in law? Fruit from the poisonous tree, right? Right? This one got rituals. This one got rituals. This one got rituals, right? No, now this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. That's why I said there's God, there's the Lord thy God, there's the mighty God, right? Is the true God, is the true and living God. These are all names of different entities that work interchangeably to receive the energy of all of the parishioners that give them organic or organic energy in the form of brain wave, brain pattern, action, deed, blood, right? To foster the one God that they serve, right? But Ella, Allah, and Allah, right? These are all meant to be elements of the true divine that is within, but they can't be inside you. So they got to create an entire reality in which these things that were laid out to be physical vessels for you to experience and inhabit, to better your temple, to better your Moorish as you science in America, right? You can't do that without being a part of a collective body. But if that collective body is disjointed and is still following elements of the other practices, how are you generally dealing with what you deal with? So you got to almost throw it all away and go to the root of what you saw in this, what you are understanding it to be, and what type of being you are going to be, and if you're going to allow yourself to be changed by what it is you are choosing to engage upon, and how much of yourself you're going to change to make it true. You understand? All of these niggas is following the same deity, and it's not the one that you or I come from or deal with. These are all the after beings, the after realities, who can only deal with the abstract reality of what God is or what the supreme being is. These are the ones that think that the spirits that they are channeling or talking to or praying to are some benevolent entities, when according to their own scriptures, they are the disembodied, disemboweled, petrified remains of those beings that were so demonic and so evil that they could not go to a place above or below, because they weren't made by the same divine means that you and I were made from. And thus they could not ascend or descend or go nowhere, so they could only girdle and circle this place, to the point where they become the IWAS, or the operating system that these niggas tap into, who are automatically deceived. That's what AI is. You think all of these giants and demons went when the flood and all that shit came, and the last 3 seconds and all that shit? Where these niggas go? They couldn't go to heaven. They couldn't go to no hell. None of that exists for them. You can't go in places that's not meant for you. You and I can't go to the very bottom of the ocean without some sort of apparatus, or we'd be out of here, because we're not supposed to be down there. You understand what I'm saying? We ain't supposed to be there. because we could go there without having to be there by just meditating and vibrating ourselves to think about what it would be like to be there. And we could actually experience it in the mind, because the mind doesn't know the difference from you actually being there to you thinking about it. You understand? Because I told you, reality as a circumstance is paradoxical, because it doesn't exist the way we are taught reality exists. What we are experiencing is the afterthought or the waiting room of real reality. A lot of people, when you read stuff over the years about this stuff, and they actually believe that this is all just spiritual ramifications or spiritual verifications of the same body part. I've seen lectures where they've broken down each individual part and how it correlates to the electrons. And yes, and that's true with all of that. But in the end, just tell me it's a spine. You understand? You dig? Like, it's that simple. This is why Freemasonry is a joke. That's why it's a joke. That's why all of the stuff they got us doing is a joke. It's a scam. It's all a scam. Church is a scam. College is a scam. These things are scams. But they are institutional scams. They are scams that help anchor people to the reality. You understand? So they're important because people give their whole life. So some people will hear this and actually get to the point where they get mad at me for letting them know that, no, it's a scam. I'm not saying you didn't work hard. I'm not saying you didn't memorize. I'm not saying you didn't earn a degree. I'm just telling you that the whole shit is a scam. I'm not saying you can't do nothing with it. I'm just telling you it's a scam. Because you went into that and came out of it in debt. It's a scam. That's all. That's it. The temple is the body. That's why the prophet could shut the original temples down. He could shut them down. You understand? And he did in 28. Then they reopened. And they reopened as something else. People could say what they want. And say what they want. But if it's anything of what it was in the original, then it would be that now. And it's not. And I'm not wrong for saying that. Just how ill Islam is. Do you know that you could, right now, if you wanted to, you could learn more about Islam at the Prince William Islamic Center? They got a mosque in there and everything. This is where they got niggas. So what? I'm gonna be making salat next to Prince William, so he could go sacrifice a baby and then come in there and then make salat and be all good, and then I'm making it next to him? No, we not doing that. We ain't doing that. You can have it. They want it that bad, y'all can have it. That's not the Islam the Prophet was talking to me about. I don't know what y'all talking about. You're not supposed to be doing that with the infidel. I don't care what y'all need to say. But hey, y'all do what y'all want to do. So you could tell the Moors, look, from Babylon to Timbuktu, the Moorish armies under General Pompey conquered Jerusalem in 770 CE, right? That was the capital of Israel. His general Vespasian, right? And his son Titus Andronicus, which is a great movie, by the way, with Anthony Hopkins. You might want to check out. Pretty good. Titus put an end to the Jewish state. You see that? They put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter during the period of military governors of Palestine. See, so it was named Palestine by the Romans. Okay? When they put an end to the state itself, they renamed it Palestine and reorganized it into the Roman state. Many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people, those that were left, right, who didn't leave. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled to Africa. And we're not talking about Caucasian European Jews. We're talking about 7th century BCE. Talking about melanated people left their kingdom that had been conquered and went into what we call Africa. Now remember, Africa means the greater part of the world, because that Africa was named that by who? The Carthaginians, melanated people. Many Jews fled to those parts of Northwest Africa, Islam, Northwest Africa, remember this now, known as Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. Many other Jews fled to the areas where Rome did not have any jurisdiction. This was to the region of the south, comma, he didn't say south where. We know he talking about the south over here. Region of the south, the Sahara Desert, and the Sudan. In the 1930s, it was established fact that the regal class of Negro nomads exiled from the Kingdom of Judah resided where? In Songhai, Mali, Ghana, Kanem Bornu Empire. Right? Because they still had the scrolls. Now peep this. I introduce you to these comparisons in order to bring home to your minds as near as possible the precise position of character in the territory which was the seat of evil I'm about to describe. It might be worthy inquiry why Christian slavery banished at last from Europe, banished also from that part of the hemisphere which corresponds with the latitude of Europe, should have entrenched itself in both hemispheres between the same parallels of latitude, so that Virginia, Carolina, Mississippi, Texas should be the American complement to Morocco, Algiers, Tripoli, and Tunis. So all of the stuff they talk about us not being from here, about Morocco not being in America, and all of this crap is all Jesuit lies and all Freemasonic jargon that has nothing to do with what the actual longitude and latitude and what the people of the day prior to this foolishness that we in now knew to be true. He just showed you. Then we know that what you call it. Look, the degrees, longitude, and latitude with our slave states, the states we was enslaving the Slovaks in, we're seen now, alas, to stretch from the Atlantic Ocean to the Rio Grande. That's all Mauritania, right? That's what we read about in the annexation of Texas document of 1845. It is supposed to embrace about 700,000 square miles, which cannot be far from the space comprehended by what may be called the Barbary States of America. So when we lost the Barbary Wars, that's when everything started to switch up. Everybody's individual imperial ambitions was now put on hold because everybody was now cut off from the main stronghold. So everybody had to go for self. So Chartars and them started having their own nation. They started seeing themselves as their own nation. Chickasaw, their own nation. Bahatuan, their own confederacy of themselves at the top, and little nations like the Huni and the Quabo and the Washo and them under them. And then the European now know that he had now broken the Moors through the Barbary Wars, was now implement to now turn these people into open air prisoners, the same way they did to these people in Palestine. Am I lying? What's the projects other than the prison? More proof of our own government and us being the original Americans. Ever this from the book Morocco as it is. Ever since the episode of the Swanee men have been protected by the English consulate. See, they protected by Rome. And the servants and grooms of the legation and the attaches are also recruited from this village. The Swanee men and who? the Moorish Americans. This is before the prophet, this is before the temple was founded, this book. And the Moorish Americans, I regret to say, get along very badly with one another. They continually strife and fighting as to whether England or America is the most powerful nation on earth. You see that? Because both was being ran by Moors. When some 4 years ago, the Queen presented the Sultan of Africa with a huge, Swanee men were delighted with an elephant, and the American vigilers proportionally depressed. However, they soon learned, was it at the American consulate? So look at what he just proved now, that the Moorish Americans were the ones running or at the American consulate. It didn't say the United States, right? Was it at the American consulate that the Sultan of America was about to send Sultan Muley Hassan an animal so large that the elephant would seem in comparison to him an insignificant insect? So that means we had elephants here in America that was more huge, that were bigger than those in Africa. Another example, this from the Congressional Grove under the Homestead Bill by Mr. Dawson of Pennsylvania. This work which is to make San Francisco the New York of the Pacific, soon to vie for the Queen of the Atlantic, but scarcely to surpass her. From their 2 points at centers on either side, the commercial streams will radiate and be reflected back with increased intensity. On the one hand, from the mother of our American races, the home of the Moor and the African. And from the other, the cradle of our first parents and the furthest isles of the sea. See that? Again, tying the American races, the first being the Moor, the second being the so-called African. But the Moor actually having title to the land and the African not. Look, this Moor, the Black Panther of Morocco, El Glawi Pasha, he had jurisdiction again with us over here, which is why when shit went south in 56, they deaded all of the programs that he was establishing to help reestablish the stuff out here, and then deposed him for the more malleable Arab type king, and then established the Kingdom of Morocco. And then I'm gonna show you how they did us dirty and then made our side of the world unbeguiled to them by dropping one of the provisions of the Madrid Convention dealing with nationality of Moors abroad. Okay, this is El Glawi Pasha. But you know what his real name? What you know his name was? Missouri. Look. The influence for the Black Panther concept derives from the Moor, Thami El Glawi, known as Hassan El Glawi. This is the Hassan we was talking about in the other document. Was born into the oldest Berber families, Moorish families. Again, ancient Hebrew families, right? We read that all of the Moors, after the fall of the kingdom in the 7th century, in the 70 CE, where'd they go? They went into Northwest Africa. So here go one of their descendants, just like you and me, who for generations were considered the fearless warriors of the Atlas region. Until his death in 1956, the Pasha of Marrakesh was many high-sounding names and deserved most of them. Most of his other titles were Lord of the Atlas, the Black Sultan, the Gazelle of the Sun. He was the most powerful figure in Morocco during this time. They never had a sultan like him since. Well, he was the last sultan. After him, like I said, through the French, they established the king, the French United States. In the English-speaking countries, he was known as the Moor. The Pasha of Marrakesh in 1912 to 1956, his family name was El Mizari, which is Missouri, right? From the title given to him by his Moorish ancestor Ishmael ibn Sharif in 700, which they call 1700. Okay? So this Moor from North Africa was named Missouri, was the last sultan up until 1956. Also known as the Sun Pasha of America. 1956, right? When they established the fake Civil Rights Act. But wait, when we look up the Civil Rights Act, right? Remember, civil rights started in 1956. The act and everything was actually passed in 1968. Okay? Yeah, it's legit hidden in plain sight. Thank you, China. Yes. Remember, it was done in 1968. And we know it and was taught that it was called the Civil Rights Act, right? Maybe the reason why Moors keep getting beat up when it comes to their civil rights or whatever is because they're not using it under the proper term that it was essentially established under. Because it actually was established under the Indian Civil Rights Act, under the Indian Bill of Rights, which was attached to the Fair Housing Act and the Open Housing Act. Why would you nickname it the Indian Civil Rights Act if the people that it was set up for were supposedly Negro and come from Africa? See what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. This is where it all goes tits up because they can't deal with the logic as it expands. So once they deposed him, 1956 comes around, they start to work on civil rights here in America, right when our documentation goes free, meaning that we become part of our own thing again. Yeah, here they go for the slow people. So we read that it all happened in Mauritania, and they had to do their thing. So, yes. The ceded country was inhabited by numerous tribes and nations of Indians who were independent both of us and of the Americans. Us, in this case, he's talking about um, the American, the British. Both of us and of the Americans. They were the real proprietors of the land, and we had no right to transfer to others what did not belong to ourselves. This injustice was greatly aggravated by the consideration that those aboriginal nations had been our faithful allies during the whole of the contest, and yet no stipulation was made in their favor. Okay? So when they say that we had our own thing, this is what I'm saying. We got broke down because in 642 The Empire of Morocco is much the largest of the Barbary states, comprising the ancient Mauritania, the modern kingdoms of Morocco proper, Fez, and other divisions. 1643. The country of Morocco is remarkable in its fertility, producing grain, olives, fruit in abundance. But when we say Mauritania, we know that Morocco, they talk about over here. The stupendous deserts between the Nusus and the Bravo ridges. There begins the separation between the Mauritanian races, the Moorish peoples, and their Indian associates. The Indian associates most likely were those Moors who lost their identity, fell in jurisdiction, right? And then put themselves under whatever the ruling class of the day designation would be for them was. So everything east of Rome was Tartaria. Everything west of Rome was Barbaria. You look at it like that, it makes it easy. So like I said, all of this was basically us having our own dominions and then incorporating those people who incorporated themselves into us. Look, man, Egypt was founded in 1953, man. Spain was founded in 1978, man. What are you talking about? What are you people talking to me about? These countries ain't even 100 years old. Yet the Kingdom of Toledo, right? Which, you know, to us, that's Toledo, Ohio, goes all the way back to the 1700s, goes all the way back to the 500s. The same year that, these places is new. They act like they've been here. That's why they want. That's why the Egyptians that's there today is acting like the original Egyptians that was helping them white, that was there. See what I'm saying? Digging all of their ancestors out the grave to get money because the British had starved them. Then the British created a whole custom where they was out there feeding them. They eat mummies. They still do. Put them in stew. They put them in paint. Most of the Picasso paint and Matisse and them, they use mummy brown. They use your melanated ancestors' mummified remains in the paint. They eat it. Yeah, because the city, everything over there is named after something of us over here. It's reverse. See, just the Rothschilds. Same dude who funded Epstein. Same dude, he also wrote the Red Book for Mao. This Mao, see, with the skull and crossbones, see? They all down in the same gang. They all working together. It's the people that's stupid. So that's why nothing can really get done because there's always a Jesuit pig inside of the organization trying to throw you off. And now what they've done specifically in America is they got their boule subjects to be the face for the destruction and the decay of America. And whenever you turn on the TV and see a melanated woman on TV in a drama or whatever, you automatically know she with a white man or she gay. She's not going to be in a relationship with a black man unless he's a pimp or he's beating her or he's something else. She's either going to be in a movie with a white man, right? Having a white man's baby. If there are two black people, melanated people with a child's always going to be mad lighter than them. It's never going to be like a whole continuous shade of brown or chocolate in the family. They always going to throw in a light skinned mulatto looking, you know, baby that's just there to just make you, you know, make you subconsciously believe that that can happen. And then when there's the black woman with the white man, that's when they can have a dark skinned child. Because they want you to believe that a black woman and a white man can make a dark skinned melanated child like this nigga right here. It's all psychological. That's why they put these puppets, these black people, to be the head. Look at the Fannie Willis case against Trump, falling apart. Allegedly, the bitch shot herself in the foot. Y'all heard about that? Y'all heard about Fannie getting shot in the foot in the courthouse? Look it up. Yeah, man, the whole case falling apart. The dude who pled guilty, that they said pled guilty in the case, he didn't plead guilty for RICO. He pled guilty for some shit that dealt with him specifically. He didn't testify against Trump neither. So even if they put him on the stand, he can't testify to Trump telling him to do something that he already pled guilty to that he didn't do. So it's all falling apart for them. It's all falling apart for them. And these puppets, these cufflinks on Satan's dress shirt, these niggas right here, they are the biggest threat to the so-called black community outside of niggas like Sexy Red and these type of people. Because they're after the youth specifically. They're just here to destroy the youth. So the fact that they'll allow that black academia, black media, black excellence or whatever will sit there and condone this type of shit, but they was coming out bulldozing. They remember when they was bulldozing NWA tapes, bulldozing Tupac tapes. Remember that? Remember that? Yes, I was getting ready to say that more. That's right, Lenny. Mayor Adams did go to Israel because all of the police forces are trained in Israel. That's why they racist. Because Israel is a xenophobic, racist state. Some of the people may be great, but ask them about the Palestinians. The first thing out their mouth is genocide. And these are the people who allegedly were genocided. Think about that. Think about that. These are the people who say that they people got thrown in ovens, and right now they dropping white phosphorus. White phosphorus is so flammable that any ignition would have shit burning for months. And they dropping this on children. Why? Because the Jesuits are all fourth vow Jesuits. And we read what the fourth vow Jesuit is there to do, right? Right? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So this is some of the demonic ones and the things. See the black woman in the back? I showed this to you, and she's sitting under Bina, right? Because that's the black pillar. And they need the black woman, the brain dead, Eastern Star, traitorous black woman that will marry the Klansman, the chick that you saw in Monsters Ball, that type of chick. She'll be with the white man who killed her son, murdered her father, murdered her baby father, executed her baby father, and asked him to make her feel good. This is the level we was on to. So these are the Jesuit fourth vow people. These are the people who are low key, and again, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim or not, Christian or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you are, because in the end, what you are is a fourth vow Jesuit. That's what you are. So what I'm saying is these people, these are the people. When they talk about the transatlantic slave trade, these are the ones that was brought over here. These are the Jews. What's his name? Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, these types of dudes. They was more melanated, dark and all that. But Benny Siegel, what's the Jew's name who was running the mob back then? Chaim Roth or whoever the nigga was. I forget his name, but he was really big back then. He was making a lot of they joints for them. Dutch Schultz, who was running Harlem, terrorizing Harlem. Ashkenazim Zionist Jew. Who ran him out? Bumpy Johnson. black boule criminal with who was sympathetic to the who was nationalistic but sympathetic to the Muslim cause because they was getting the people off the dope he was selling to his own people. Do you see what I'm saying? And this was Malcolm X's right hand man. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you see that most of our leaders come out of some sort of criminality or some sort of, it's crazy. And we just got to accept that. When the real criminals, these people right here now, these are the people now that's over there in Israel as the main class citizens bombing and doing this type of thing to the Palestinians. Today. So the question is, did y'all just set that up so that way y'all can have this to do it to people today? Was that whole? That's why some people be out here like the Holocaust wasn't real and all of that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's evidence that they can flip evidence either way. They can make it look real. They can make it not look real. It don't matter. You understand? It don't matter. It's what you're gonna accept and bring into your life and make real. So as we wrap this up, remember I was gonna tell you about the thing. First of all, so again, if you didn't know, it's already come out that there was no invasion in Ukraine. The UN Secretary General says that the war in Ukraine has fundamentally changed. But then you have to remember, the war didn't start in 2022. The war started in 2014. And since then, NATO has implemented the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense since the end of the Cold War. So do you know what that means? That means that when they said that Russia invaded and that's why they're there, that they lied. You know what that means? That means that every penny that they have sent to Ukraine is now illegal. They openly said that the war started back in 2014. The initial push in this whole thing was them saying that it started with Russia going back when Russia just implemented what it was supposed to do because most of the people in the Ukraine are Russian and they were tired of being experimented on by the Ukrainian Nazis because Ukrainian Nazis are running baby factories in the Ukraine right now. Did you know that? They have open baby factories out there. Did you know that? Now, these baby factories, factories are also baby farms. What's a baby farm? Ukraine's most popular surrogate company offers women willing to become surrogates nearly 11,000 for one pregnancy and 250 a month stipend and some more than 3 times average yearly salary of Ukraine, approximately $3,000. Ukraine has become an increasingly popular destination for foreign couples seeking affordable surrogacy services since it has become legal in 2022. So that means all of these celebrity babies that was going to get IVF and all that other type of shit, they was going to Ukraine to get them babies. Did you know that? This is why none of these celebrities can come out and talk against the shit. Because then they can just turn off the chip in their babies and shit, whatever it is they doing with them. You understand? The average package costs about $30,000 compared with prices up to $80,000 to $120,000 in the United States. All of these chicks that you see with the fake baby bumps and then they pop up with the baby and then they don't have no C-section scar. They say this or that. You never really see. This is why. All of the men that's posing as women and they don't really have uteruses and they just wind up with babies. That's because this is what they doing. This is how they getting them. This is what the Ukrainian tax money is going to. You understand? Demand has surged since 2015 when Thailand, India, and Nepal outlawed commercial surrogacy following reports of widespread exploitation of women. However, the surrogacy industry is extremely dubious. Even Ukraine Ministry of Health was unable to provide data of the number of surrogate mothers in the country. You see? Remember, I also told you they're working on genetically modified humans out there, right? Didn't I say that? This is why you think they're doing this. That's why they're doing it. This is what the Ukraine war is about, because they created baby farms, because the baby farming thing is a big thing. And it's been going on for hundreds of years. Don't believe me? Here are two of the ancient crests, here are two of the Jesuit crests of the baby farming thing. See this right here? This is a goddess. You know what goddess this is? Yes. Yeah, this is what they doing, fam. This is what they doing. This is what they doing. So when I tell you that they worshiping Ishtar, right, and they doing sacrifices to Ishtar and doing this, I'm serious. This is who this is based on. All these chicks that's getting plastic surgery, all of that, Ishtar is over that. Another name for Ishtar is Semiramis. Here she is. Another name of Semiramis is Artemis. Another name of Artemis, Semiramis, is also Ephesia. Here she is. Remember, this is a European crest of arms right here. So I'm showing you an ancient Babylonian goddess deity of carnal and bestial fertility. And this is one of the logos, again, of the companies that's sponsoring the baby farms out there. These are also, this old one is from one of those old Cabbage Patch Kids advertisements. But you see, it's the same baby reaching for the star and the crescent in the middle. But look at the star and the crescent. Look at the upside down crescent. What's that a symbol of? Exactly. You see what you're dealing with. You see what you're dealing with? So when did the ancient world stop? When did it stop if these niggas are still worshiping the same tired, old, dirty, decrepit, you know what I'm saying? Daughters of men, demons created by the daughters of men and these niggas in their stories and stuff. When it's gonna be anything different? It's not. It's not. They're gonna keep these things here because remember, I told you these things can't die. They don't have no way out. They don't have a transcendent reality to go to. They can't even get into the other dimensions and shit like that. They cut off from all of that. Because they wasn't supposed to exist in the first place. Half of the people on this planet wasn't supposed to exist in the first place. Think about that. They wasn't supposed to exist in the first place, and they were brought here regardless. What you think that's gonna do to entities that can't die? We go insane. And then the thing about us, they hate us because we actually can leave here and go to something better that we create within our own selves. So long as we don't fall down and worship them and become food for the divinity of worship. The upside down crescent like that is in this case is also a symbol of Ishtar. The crescent itself is a symbol, technically is a symbol of Ishtar or Isis Urania or Alat. You understand? But not everybody was on it the way that these niggas was on it. And just because we was Moabites didn't mean that we couldn't transcend the disgusting parallels of our nature and rise to the true element of what this whole stuff was about to begin with. And then feast within the covenant of the Most High, which is the highest aspect of ourselves. Because the better I treat humanity and myself and others, the better experience it's having through me. Remember? Yeah, it does say help. Yep, yep. And look at the goddesses. So on the left side of this image is uh Semiramis. On the right side of it is Artemis, who is also Brit, uh, Eo Britannia, symbol of Britain, holding the great bell or the liberty flag, because they taking our liberty. And then in that they have the olive branch because they represent the new lamb. Because this is the Antichrist babies that they trying to bring about in the world. See, she got the crescents upside down. So yeah, so and see she got the hawk feet. Remember the movie Brother from Another Planet? At the end we saw his feet and they were just like this, right? Because that's how some of them black reptilians and Dracos and the niggas are. They look like us and thing, but they different and they don't have the same type of genetic structure we do. Therefore, they hate us. So they blend in with us. But they did that specifically through the European line of those blacks, of those melanated Moors that got deposed. So in that, this is why we cannot be anything other than what we are. And one thing we are not is African Americans. You understand? Go back and look at the Twilight Zone episode, How to Serve Man. Look at that episode. All of the Twilight old Rod Serling episodes was forecasting that at those Rod Serling episodes was the first Simpson episodes. Not a Simpson predicting it, this shit and all of that. That's what those episodes in Twilight Zone was like. But we don't want to be African Americans because one, we know the patent for African American exists. Okay. And who owns it? The owner of the African American trademark is the African American Incorporated, a North Carolina based food and beverage service company. The owner of the registered trademark assigned African American trademark serial number 8, see, starting with Saturn, 8 and ending with 1. See that? So they're going in reverse. Is African American Incorporated. The African American trademark covers beef, canned vegetables, chicken, and pork. Nike is the Nike Corporation is the propaganda equivalent of this corporation because Nike as a corporation ranks 379th on the list of most profitable corporations. So it don't exist to make money. So I'm telling you, when they turn you into food and they turn us into clothes and use our melanin to power machines and all of this, they're doing that because all of us that use that term to identify with associate ourselves to that patent and that copyright. Therefore, technically, under that designation, the res that comes under the jurisdiction of that copyright belongs to them, right? Hence why you need to declare what your nationality is and stop being fooled for the divinity that you worship. Anybody have any questions? The Moorish queens that signed off on the Yaqub experiments would be referred to in the Bible as the daughters of men. They are the ones in the Bible story that laid down with the angels and received the seed from them that then brought forth the abominations, which were the giants, the titans, the titanothropes, these types of things. That was so wonderful and terrible that their voracious appetite destroyed what was left of what was already beginning. And thus they were cursed to never be able to produce the offspring of the Most High again, which is why Adam, according to the story, when he got tricked by Eve and he got kicked out, he allegedly was away from her for a couple of years, 120 years. And in that time, that's when he had babies with Lilith, which is another version of Semiramis, which represented the decadent type of women that was already there and having babies with that. And then from there, he had abominations with her too. And after those years, he went back with Eve and then had Seth. And then that's when the pure line of humans allegedly started from that. So after these daughters of men had helped create these abominations and basically plunged the rest of humanity into horrors, they were punished allegedly by being banished to the sea. And this is where we get the mermaids and them come from. So they were now the sirens who could no longer live on land, see the land that they helped destroy. So they were now stuck there in the sea and could only have interactions with God through interactions with us, which is where you get the stories of the sailors and all of that, because all of these were the daughters and the mothers and the daughters of Poseidon, who himself was one of these entities, again, created from this hybridized genetic grafting birth that these things was dealing with at these ancient times, allegedly. And so these alleged cursed women were then put in a position where they could never, be with regular human men. They were bound to the deep. So they became the sirens that would lure men out, have sex with them to be able to produce more of them, kill the man, and then bring the seed back to the depths. So this is where we get the story of the Amazons, right? This type of stuff from. So because they knew that the woman was easily impressionable, I'm not trying to disrespect any women that's on the class, because obviously we're from a different vibe if you even got the time to listen to somebody like me talking shit. But I'm saying, you gotta do the knowledge to that position within yourself. Like, you ever notice how women will talk about how strong and boss bitch and all of this they are, but then as soon as a dude come in their life and they start being with him or whatever, they fall under his so-called control. Because it's natural. Because that's natural. It's supposed to, in a sense, be like that. Because that's how survival works. However, they now have trained themselves to be the opposite, see, because they all have the Ishtar spirit. They all have the fake. So all of these body doubles and body shit you see them doing, body morphing, that's all to get them to look like Semiramis. You understand? That's what they there to look like. They want them all to, they all trying to venerate her. They don't know. Look at mine. Look at the hips. Look at the archetype. They're all trying to look like her. Look, the big fake breasts, right? Fake hair, right? Big eyelashes, right? Big hips, right? That's what they're all trying to look like. Yes, the harlot, or Babylon, yes. That's why they all go to the same doctors. That's why they all go to the same surgeons. This is it for them. They don't even know that they're inhabited and they're possessed by this demon. One of its biggest archetypes is Beyonce. So remember, the Moabite were the members of the Western Semitic people. That's us, who lived in the highlands of the east of the Dead Sea River. So that's anybody east of the Dead Sea River over there. Right? And flourished in the 9th century. They are known principally through the information given in the Old Testament. And flourished in the 9th century. We see in the Old Testament an inscription in Moabite stone. Moabite cultures dated back scholars from the 14th century. See? More. 14th century, according to the Jewish historian Josephus, because all of the Hebrew stuff came from the Moabite stuff. And all the Moabite stuff is Canaanite stuff, and all of that's Moors. Yes, because it's all spell binding, throwing spells on people. So that's what's up. You know? Anybody have any good questions? So that's what's really going on with the Israel thing. They basically just gone. It's two brothers that's both impersonating real brothers fighting. The pale Arab is fighting the so-called Zionist Ashkenazi Jew, and they both fascists and Nazis. So the best thing to do is let them destroy each other, like our prophecies say, and then like the prophet said, we're going to inherit it all when they're done. You know, remember, man, all of these buildings were mosques. But when I say mosque, I'm not talking about mosques like Islamic mosques like they got over there. I'm talking about these were high centers of learning for our people. And they rebuilt stuff on top of it. And then they repurposed them and turned them into Capitol buildings and post office and Grand Central terminals and stuff. But all of this was done by the Freemasons. Every lake in this country was man-made. Every swamp in this country was man-made. Every river in this country was man-made. And after the 1900s, they was all made to hide all of our glory and brilliance on this hemisphere. But it don't matter because all of the bets is off. You go to the CDC website, type in Moors, all of the eastern tribes of North, Central, South America come up. So that means we at the top of them. That means that all of that old shit is already out the door. That's why I feel like they can't arrest a lot of these black people robbing the stores and shit anymore. Because I don't think they have jurisdiction over them anymore. Because all the old treaties have been reversed. That's when your enemy is doing things to benefit you, support him. So they talk about all of the invasion that's coming. This is the numbers of the different people that's coming up in here in this country, and they all, you know, fighting aged men. But here's the one thing that people don't realize: these Americans are crazy. This country has made us insane. You understand? So if they really think that they could come here and invade the way that they think they do, with a bunch of niggas with flip flops and NATO, UN gift cards and shit, that these is the niggas that's going to do it, you got another thing coming, buddy. Because this is when all the gangbangers, all the rednecks, all of the people that hate each other, all of us Americans that hate each other, they're gonna get together and they're gonna wipe out everybody. Everybody's gonna go. Everybody's gonna go, including them. And then what's gonna happen? The dust gonna settle, and it's just gonna be us. Just like last time, just like the time before that, just like the time before that. That's the only way it can be. Because that's the only way. You understand? Because that's how it's always been. That's how it will always be. So long as we know you know who you are, you should be okay. Next week, we're going to the surrender of Grenada specifically. So you could do the knowledge to that and know how to use that as like a pre-treaty for all of the treaties that you want to cite and use now. You can use that one as the predominant one because that is the one that subscribes the Black Pope and all of the Jesuit society and Jesus shit in. So you citing that as the basis and then citing all of the treaties of Barbary and stuff after. That's like a real complete cohesive marker. You know what I'm saying? That'll help you acknowledge that and help with the Moorish exemption and all of that because you can find it, like I said, in the law. You know, Also, real quick, this is the United States Department of Defense UCC 1 that they put over the Federal Reserve, and they did it in the Latin name of the country, which is E pluribus unum. That's something that we Moors, I don't know if you knew that, but E pluribus unum is like another way of saying Il Maricano Status. That's the real Latin name of the country. Again, proving that the Moorish people who spoke the Latin were the ones that established the country, not the ignorant, brain dead Europeans that came over here under the subjugation of our Moorish European Christian cousins. Islam. Also, this is the pattern. This is also why you can deny being an African American by law. By law, if they refer to you as African American, they're putting you under a false patent, under a false trademark, to be usurped in the private side. You understand? So again, that's another punishable offense. That's why you never check African American on anything, black on anything. It's better to be listed as white, uh, American Indian, and or Hispanic, because the Hispanic you're talking about is the Carthaginian Hispanic. You understand? The Moors that conquered Spain. Okay, that's the Hispanic you from. You represent those who held the Hispanicus gladius, the sword, the Hispanicus gladius Moris, or the Moris Hispanicus gladius, however you want to say it. Anybody have any last questions before we close out? The we could kind of touch on that next week too. The black Nazis versus the real, the original Nazis versus the fake ones. Yeah, that's all tied up in what's called the Thule Society. A lot of that is wrapped up with them. But we're going to get into them next week. I wanted to get into the Treaty of Algeciras as well, because that is what has the cops binded up now. That's why you think the cops are starting to get locked up now for the police brutality, because the act of Algeciras. Now that we done fell outside of their jurisdiction, a lot of those treaties is low key in effect. They're not telling nobody. You just got to know what it is based upon how the action is being committed. You understand? So unless you got the eyes to see it, they know how to hide the shit right in front of you. Yeah? You know. So yeah. So definitely, you guys want to hit me up? Meet up at houseofl@hotmail.com. If you haven't yet, definitely check out the app for the beta test. I'm still in the beta test phase with it. It's gonna go live, I think, by the end of the month. So definitely check that out. It'll be great. We'll be posting a lot of stuff on that. And then analogous to that, look out for this as well, inshallah. One second. Yes, definitely want you to check out this as well. I wanted to show you. I can't find it. Just give me 1 second, y'all. Yeah. Yeah, so definitely look out for that. And then also look out for God's Code 418. I'm about to relaunch. It's the cover. About to relaunch the whole joint. With the redux, with the color, some added features to it. And then from there launch the other books that's gonna basically talk about all of these stories in comic and animated form and all of that. It should be up there again. Try to check again. It's more, yes, iPhone specifically right now. Once we go public, then it'll be on the main App Store platform. You know. Yeah, I'll be checking out Warhammer. You know, But yeah, this series is gonna. I'm gonna have a lot of series starting up with this one again. That's gonna basically kind of be another way to bang on these people, but do it in the medium. Use the same medium they're using against us with the stories, but just do it in reverse. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so right now it's just gonna be iPhone. Thank you, David. Brother David's been helping me, him and his wife. Big up to him. We're doing it together. So definitely gonna check that out. We're gonna keep you posted on it. Do a live soon. Also, I think me and the Queen gonna do a live sometime tomorrow on YouTube. So look out for that as well. Again, thank you guys for coming through. For those people that haven't, if you can send in $30 to copiis@gmail.com to PayPal, or $30 to money sign capital DS18 to Cash App. I really appreciate it. Anybody needs any confirmation or building on the renewal process, just hit me up. houseofbell@hotmail.com. And you guys enjoyed it. Anybody else have any questions? If not, we'll call it. You too, man. I appreciate it, guys. It's on.